what he said? Buy the dip. I hope everybody had a great holiday and a great turkey weekend. I know I did, and I appreciate anybody too that contributed to a close friend of mine, kind of family really. My cousin who's passed away a long time ago. His daughter-in-law, who calls me Uncle Jesse, she lost two of her three kids in a car accident. And the other one was in critical condition, still dealing with a lot of trauma and problems. The crazy part of that entire story is that the person that caused that accident had just stolen the truck earlier in the day. It was in Colorado. Ever hear of a place called Aurora? Remember where all the illegal immigrants were? Tren de Aragua. Well, this person had stolen a truck earlier in the day at knife point, has a rap sheet a mile long, and they were the ones that veered off the road, back on the road, and then careened into them head on, killing two young children, actually five people in the car. So I think it just goes to show and reiterates that even this anecdotal evidence from my own personal experience and people that I care deeply about reflects the fact that we've been crazy about the way that we uphold law in this country, and we got to fix it, and we're going to do that. And there's a lot to talk about today. We're going to be talking. There's a lot of Trump news over the weekend, or at least things that pertain to his administration. We've got China doing really bad. Economic data that in manufacturing that indicates contraction, and again, it's all artificially inflated, so it's actually probably much worse than it says it is. We've got the Japanese 10-year bond up almost 4% on the day. It was 4% earlier, hitting record levels going all the way back to 2008 as far as the yields that are on it. And I think one of the reasons why we're seeing some pain in TLT today and across markets is really the fear in Japan, but also probably really weak economic data that is coming out of China. Aurora used to be the best part of Denver. Yeah, and now it's just a shithole, right? Isn't that crazy what happens over time? But we got a lot to talk about. Bitcoin manipulation, that's actually a really good point too. So we got silver hitting a new all-time high. It exploded last week. It was up over 5% in one day, which is a huge move for silver. And then gold is pushing higher again, up 0.63%. There's very interesting things that are happening though, and I want to talk to all of it. First, though, let's do a mix of good and bad news. And again, here I'm not worried about what's happening right now. I'm really not. I think I'm going to show you data that shows that hedge funds and a bunch of other investment money market funds are buying the dip like crazy because they're underperforming the indexes. I think Tom Lee is 100% right that we're seeing things happening. I don't know what green dots means. Does anybody have a theory on the MicroStrategy green dots? I can tell you all it's seeing today is red, not dots, but just red lines. Again, continuing its drop. We talked about how the measured move is almost completed for MicroStrategy, guys. This is fucking insane. Like, if you look here, this double top up here, you could kind of say that, if we look at the trend lines, really, it's probably from right about there that this happened. And if we look at our double top scenario from like over here, this is kind of the double top. And this is the measured move lower. I can tell you this, MicroStrategy, if anybody was ever interested in getting into it, it's a lot better of a deal at $51 billion than it is than it was up here at what was it, $540 a share. Now it's $167. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what the green dots are. If you guys see the Michael Saylor post, please throw it up and let us know what's happening. We do have an 87.6 probability of a rate cut coming up here in December, and that date is on the 10th. We have quantitative tightening ending today. Those are both really good things. We have the CNN Fear and Greed Index, which has been sitting in extreme fear for a while, still sitting in extreme fear. And judging by the way things are going this morning, it will register an even lower number. The one good thing about this is the longer it spends time down here, the more violent the upside potential is going to be. We have, let's look on the crypto front. We've still got extreme fear, it looks like, too, in the crypto realm. It says 24, but again, that's probably going to print a lower print because of what we've seen lately. Inflation-related data is still sitting pretty much where it's at. We do have ISM manufacturing day. That does not come out until 9. I'll probably be gone by that. I think this is Central Time. But that's going to be a key thing to look at today. This is November data. So if we actually start to see a tick up in like PMI, employment, new orders, hopefully prices aren't going up. I actually think that they probably will trend lower. If we see things heading in the right direction on this, I think we'll get a nice little recovery. But we're waiting on that. And again, the Chinese data was just horrific. Indian data, not so bad, though. We probably should talk about that a little bit, too. And again, to anybody who contributed to the fundraiser, I don't even know where they're at right now, $112,000. That's incredible. So I really appreciate you guys helping them out. The ones that passed away are the two little ones in the front. And she's still alive and fighting for her life. So hopefully she gets better soon. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent announces that he is removing illegal immigrants from the financial system completely. He's removing tax benefits and cross-border money transfers. So again, we're going to look at more data in regard to this. The thing that they said never happens is happening. We've got millions of people collecting SNAP and EBT benefits and other forms of benefits like Medicare, Medicaid, things of this nature. I'm not sure about Medicare, but Medicaid for sure. That weren't supposed to be, but they are. And this is costing taxpayers a ton of money. And it's a massive incentive to stay, right? You're not going to self-deport if you're still getting paid for not doing anything. So we're going to fix that. I did want to talk about this. Shay posted this. Shay's great. He appears on Fox Business every once in a while. Just a really good dude. He said, I don't think people realize how bullish Kevin Hassett as the next Fed chair would be for the market. Hassett has spent his entire career arguing that the economy accelerates when capital stays cheap and the Fed leans towards expansion instead of restraint. So again, the incentive is to lower rates and to get yields down, and that's exactly what they're going to do. We're going to talk about the SLR ratio, a bunch of other stuff that's happening behind the scenes that people aren't really talking about. That's a big deal. But Kevin Hassett, we talked for a while about how he's going to be the guy. Now it looks like with 71% on Polymarket, it says that he's the guy. But it says if Trump puts him back at the center of policy, he's going to, then the person shaping rate decisions becomes someone who consistently pushes for easier financial conditions and faster growth. Growth first economic running monetary policy is about as market friendly as it gets. And again, you want yields to come down too, because you can't get that growth unless you push them lower. Talked about TLT getting hit today, actually down 0.79%. So not a good hedge right now, just because of, again, I think what's happening with the blowout and Japanese yields and the threat of them raising rates to offset what's happening right now with their bond market. We'll see how all that plays out, but I think it's going to be. I think the ramifications are going to be minimal at best. I think people are making it into too big of a deal, just like the MSCI delisting a bunch of Bitcoin treasury companies. We'll talk about that too. I also think that that's not a big deal. Let's get caught up with chat. Good morning, Jesse. What's up, Mr. Castorano? Might be a good time for some tax loss harvesting. If you need to, you should. And I've done a little bit of that too. And I did update my portfolio. It's not in beautiful shape. I think it was like 3.4, 3.5, down 1.4 million from where it was a month ago. Virtually all of those losses were just me being a dumbass and not getting out of my Clean Spark and Mara calls. That was the goal. We got out of like probably between both of them, maybe 45% of them. But I wish I would have got out of the rest. My loss would have completely went away, and I would be flat right now for the month, which is a lot better than what most people are, including where I am right now. So it is what it is. You do stupid things. You play stupid games. You win stupid prizes. But we're not worried about it. I look at it this way. I wanted to deliver, and now I'm delivered because those options have expired. Mara has not, but I just don't see them coming back either. So I'm happy. The things I did right. Oh, and you know what, real quickly, maybe I'll just segue over into this because I haven't shown my portfolio. Yeah. So a couple things that changed. I did take out my goal because my goal is no way attainable between now and the end of the year unless a miracle happens. And I don't think it's going to. So I've taken that out. I actually think the goal is stupid anyway. I think it probably led me to some of the mistakes that I made. Like keeping Clean Spark and Mara calls too long. So I'm not putting a goal anymore. Fuck that. I'm going to ride the waves. I'm going to play the market as it approaches me and what I think it's going to do next. And I'm not going to put a goal. And I honestly shouldn't even have my 6.95 in here because I never remained above 6 million for a day. So that number could probably come down too. But either way, we're down about 50% from where we were. Not a great number. Very disappointed in that number. But I ran the math, and from 2020, when I retired at the low, when things were bad, yeah, we'll talk about HPCs. I actually think that they're still really going to do well, and I bought them really well too. It was awesome. I think CleanSpark is down today, down 7.95% in pre-market because of everything that's going on, but that thing was up 40% from where I bought it. So I have no complaints right now. That's the only reason I'm doing good is I at least timed the bottom here, the local bottom, really well. I can buy more if I need to. I got about 110K in cash. But let's look at the portfolio. Let's look at this. Oh, I was going to say, the one thing I'm happy about since 2020, at my low over here, when I retired, I actually retired with about $370,000, and it wasn't even all liquid. And I retired because I knew the bull market was coming for Bitcoin, and I knew that markets were going to do well. So I had to maintain, without an income for myself and one income for my wife at the time, and helping out with family members financially, I retired myself with like 370,000 in cash. Then the market got even worse, and it got down to 164K. So that was my low in 2020, while having to maintain without any income, because my income, the wife's income, disappeared the next year because we retired her too, and then we started helping out more people financially. Right now, I probably give away about $4,000 to $5,000 a month towards family members currently. But yeah, so that income went away. Without any of that, I had to make this money, right? I had to make this money, and I grew my accounts, and I'm up over 20x. If you do the math here, I'm up over 20x from where I was at that low. So even though I'm bummed out with the way this year has went, definitely bummed out by it, and I'm sure a lot of people invested in Bitcoin-related investments feel the same way, unless they were an IRON or an HPC. I'm still happy. 20x is great. That's 80% a year in returns that I'm averaging right now. So it looks like shit over the short term, but I'm optimistic. I feel like life is going to be okay, and I think you just have to think long term about things, guys, and you're going to feel better. So positioning, real quickly. MicroStrategy announces the formation of a $1.44 billion USD reserve, an increase in BTC reserve to 650,000 BTC. How much more is that than they had last time? And what does that mean? The formation of a $1.44 billion USD reserve. So they've got $1.44 billion in USD. Do we know what the purpose behind that is? Interesting and weird. We'll see if it helps the stock. All right, so real quickly, RG, this is the only, as far as leveraged plays go, this is the only thing I really have. And I've got long calls that go all the way out to January of 2028. Most of my money is sitting between now and June, and then like the other 40% is sitting. So I've got about 6.5, 7 months for that to play out, and that's for a target of 48. And then the rest is sitting further out towards January 2027 and then 2028. So I don't have a lot to lose here, at least over the next 7 months. It would suck, but if I did, I've still got years for this thing to play out and do well. And I think it can 10x where the underlying assets. So that's great. 10 to 20. Tesla, second position, but this again, this just went up a lot last week. That's why it's doing so well. TLT is my hedge. Again, that's call options. Hasn't been super great yet, but that's okay. I went into it feeling that way as well, knowing that it could do bad and that I would just try and dial into it more if I needed to. CleanSpark has bounced a ton. Metaplanet has been bouncing. It's probably going to come back down and test today, but again, even it did well. The Bitcoin treasuries even doing well. This is it's a hanging man, which kind of sucks, but I think we're back. We could back test over here. But once we get above like the $3 range on this thing, it's going to be nice. And then once we get above peak volumes, way up here at 4, it'll be even better. But this thing, it will start slowly coming back. I'm looking at this though, guys. I got like 280,000 in this. I'm looking at this as a very long, or maybe it's 300. I'm looking at this as a very long-term play. I'm not looking at it even this cycle as like going up a ton, unless we get some blow off top that I'm not expecting right now. That would be great, but if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. Cypher and CleanSpark are my faves right now. CleanSpark, again, just been insane. And boy, did this thing give me a mix of emotions over the last several months. So up here would have been great to sell all my calls. because it got up to 23 and change. I remember that day. And then it went all the way down here to $9 in just such a short period of time. But look at this. And now we're way the fuck up here. But again, I think we could close this gap right here. It's the only gap on the daily time frame. It goes down to about 1364. I think we can close that into the morning. But yeah, this chart is just absolutely fucked. This is an insane chart. But when you zoom out over a longer period of time, it looks better. Here, I'll get rid of some of the noise. It actually looks way better when you zoom out over this period of time. Even though we're sitting at a hanging man right now on the monthly. Or had one, I guess. We did technically pass, so it's going to print a new candle today. But this still looks good. I mean, peak volumes are way down here. We bounced stupid fucking hard off of it after not being able to spend a lot of time underneath of it. The chart actually is getting better. And I think it's just going to be... CleanSpark is great. Iron is great, too, just because, again, they have access to all this power. Between a couple of these bigger HPC miner plays, they have, like, 25% probably of the power supply that is currently available for excess energy here in the near future. So, and we're going to need so much more. So I can see the relationships and the foundation of these guys, especially ones that can operate lean and efficiently, are going to do really, really well. I like the HPC plays. I really do. And again, ASST, our favorite, ass and titties, probably not great over the short term, down 8%. Again, a lot of those are that way this morning. This one is a long-term play for me. I'm not thinking about this over the next year. I'm thinking about it over the next like 3-4 years. BMNR is probably a more short-term play for me. And then I've got 4% in cash. I've got Iron. I've got EOC. I've got the Smarter Web. This has just dwindled away, and I haven't added a ton to it. I'm worried about UK regulatory risk. The UK is just so... I don't know what's happening anymore with that country. I don't know what they're capable of. And so it makes me hesitant to want to add anything to that. That's why I put all the money in MetaPlanet when I was adding. That's pretty much it. So I don't have a lot of leverage anymore. I don't have a lot of downside risk anymore. And it both feels beautiful and sad at the same time. But I'm not somebody who looks in reverse a lot. I like to look back to make sure that I understand what's happened. And then I like to live in the current and then look towards the future and try and understand it. So, yeah. So anyway, that's where we're sitting. U.S. economy, though, I want to go through this. There's so much good stuff I want to talk about. I said it's time to take millions of illegal aliens off the benefits programs we were told they were not on. This is the best way to help with the deportation process. Take easy money away. And again, just looking at some of these data points here, you know what? I'll actually let this one play.
Exposed our immigration asylum disaster. That was the tip of the iceberg. Now, here's the story. Doge has found that immigration gave a work authorization document to illegals just 5 months.
Yeah, that's the other thing I did right, B, was getting the fuck out of those 2X plus funds. Somebody who's in 3 is just done. They're just dust. MSTU, MSTX, dust. BMNU, dust. SOLT, dust. Everything that's a 2X fund, dust. Nobody should... I would not be buying any of that soon. There's so many unpredictable things that can happen between, like, Michael Howell and global liquidity thoughts, between underperformance heading into the year, between gold being just at outrageous levels, between the incentives to lower yields from the government, between quantitative tightening coming to an end and rates going... There's just so many things happening. There's good stuff ahead, but who the fuck knows what's happening over the short term? I think you'd have to be pretty crazy to just keep dabbling in to 2X funds. You're going to get royally screwed, and you don't even have the calculated upside, like the much better opportunity for good research and understanding the right targets and the time frames and whether options are undervalued. You don't even get the benefit of like doing that math. It's kind of shitty upside. Or at least lesser upside, probability-wise. And you could just get chopped to fuck or completely screwed over a month because some weird shit happens with what's going on in Japan or China or any number of other things. So you shouldn't be in leverage. I don't think anybody should be in leverage, especially short-term leverage, short-term calls and stuff like that. You've got to be insane. It could go either way right now. You could have a rocket ship up higher, or you could fucking just... grind for months. So I think we just have to be really smart. You made tax loss harvest a Metaplanet? Yeah, right? Like, people have to think about taxes. If you have a big loss in something and it makes more sense to you, even though I think the price right now, I think it's a great price where it's at, but if you can lower your tax obligation so you're not giving more money to the government anytime soon, that is the smart way to do it. Always pay your taxes, but if you can, limit the amount that you have to pay by doing smart things like tax loss harvesting. Yeah, let's keep going, though. So let's listen to the rest of this.
Months after they filed for asylum. That document allowed them to work while they waited to hear whether their asylum request had been accepted or denied. So they could work as an illegal, knowing it would take years before their case was heard. The Immigration Department mailed them.
And these guys, you guys have to realize, so these people are illegal aliens. They're working into the system and they're collecting from the system right away, even though they just started contributing. We're going to take all that away. And even tax returns at the end of the year, these guys think they're going to get like a big tax rebate coming back from the government. That's not going to happen either. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that ain't happening. And again, we need to end the filibuster. I think that's going to be, people are going to start to realize in the not too distant future that they're okay with going down that path and they think that's the right path. The Overton window will shift enough where people understand that. But I think so. I think we'll be fixing voting. I think we're going to fix the driver's license issue, the no names, so many things that we're going to fix in regard to immigration, and we're going to draw down costs. And that cost is going to reduce demand, and reduced demand means lower prices. It could be lower prices in real estate. It could be lower prices down at the grocery store. All these things are going to get better. It's going to get better.
A social security number, no interview, no proof of identity, just put it in the mail. Here's your number. In 2021, Doge says
he's bearish, but Michael, sorry, I should let this finish. This is a really good point. We'll focus on it in a second. BGZ said Michael Howell, to me, sounds bearish for next year. What's your take? Yes, he is. He's bearish at some point, the government having to refinance a bunch of debt, and he thinks that money will go into the real economy, but it won't go into the markets. At some point, he thinks the markets start to roll over. He has shifted that date a lot, though, so you have to realize that. And I don't think I've never heard, I need to see if I can get Michael Howell on. I've never tried to reach out to him. I really don't do interviews with people, and I just have my stuff set up to, like, me stream, right? Which is very different than, like, having conversations and including people in rooms and talking to them. But he's brilliant, and I'd love to listen to him. I never hear him talk about AI, and that's problematic. I don't even think I've heard anybody ask him about it. You have to, if you're not factoring in, and I think he's been pretty smart. I think he's been smart on understanding that what the Trump administration's incentives are. But I think he's too bearish. I think he doesn't realize that they're still going to do a bunch of short-term issuance. They're going to try and grow their way out of the debt. And that's what all the policies are doing. And so I don't think he's looking at it. He's looking at liquidity as being like over because of this debt refinancing issue. But I don't know that it has to be that, especially if we end up pulling rates down really hard and getting yields down. Because even if we're just buying back, people don't realize this, guys. This is like a big circle jerk, you know? We're like it's a big circle jerk. So the Fed and the Treasury historically have just been like, oh, hey, I'm going to issue a bunch of money and it's going to be short-term debt because we don't want to be locked in for 10 to 30 years of paying back this high interest rate to these people. So we're not going to issue that debt. We're going to issue the short-term stuff. And that way we can save on those expenses. And then the Fed and the Treasury will just be like, oh, hey, I'm going to issue the debt. Hey, will you buy the debt? Oh, you'll buy the debt. Cool. All right, sweet. We're good. Yield curve control. Done. And then you and then you modify the supplemental leverage ratio and make it to where banks can lend more. And then they know the Fed's accommodative and that they're just going to buy back their own debt. People are like, oh, no, China's going to sell all their bonds. I mean, they kind of were doing that. They're starting to buy more again. But the thing is, it's like it doesn't really fucking matter. It doesn't matter if foreigners sell their debt. We can just buy it ourselves and artificially depress the yields. And I think that's what we're going to do. And so I'm living right now in the markets. And this is probably an important take that I should, if I ever edited videos, this would be one I'd edit, is that I'm betting that next year, Powell's appointment is done by May. I'm betting that by next year, by that time, there's no way. Do you think Jerome Powell wants to work with Trump and talk to Bessent every day and just get fucking browbeat? He doesn't want to. So by the end, at worst case scenario, and there's other appointments that could happen in the meantime too. There's a lot of things that are playing out. There's court cases. There's a lot of weird shit. But we're going to get a Fed that will buy back all the debt. We just are. And we're going to get a rate cut in December. And yields look like they're still going to roll over on the long end. And our incentive is to do that because all of the debt right now with the banks, there's banks that are theoretically insolvent, like Bank of America. But the only reason they're not is because that we're basically just pushing off the duration until rates can come down. And then when the rates come down, they're going to look fine. They're going to look like they're fiscally responsible and there's nothing to worry about. But we have to do that. We have to do that with our own government. 24 cents out of every dollar collected in taxes goes to the interest on our debt. We can't have that. We have to have our interest on our debt be almost non-existent. We're going to go to the twos, I think, on the 10-year and the 30 and the next year. I really do believe that. It's why I own TLT. And TLT would be a decent thing to pick up today with the fact that it's down almost 1% and it was down like 0.5% on Friday. So that'd be interesting. Anyway, let's keep going. I'm going to stay away from chat so I don't get lost here. New non-citizen Social Security numbers issued. So in 2021, these are illegal immigrants. So we've got 270K, 590K, 964K, and 2.1 million in 2024. They really, those last 2 years, they worked really hard to get as many illegal immigrants into the system as possible to try and win the election. They came real close, didn't quite get there. But all these motherfuckers, they're collecting benefits, or at least I'm sure a huge amount of them are. And so we need to fix that, and we will. Let's keep going. Need to move faster. Let's see, what else do we have? I believe. Damn, I'm late. C-list. Hey, C-list. The key is that they're at least a net contributor within a few years. Most pay 5% taxes compared to the benefits in school. Yeah, very true. And there's some graphs that I'm going to show actually in regard to illegal immigrants and people that were born here and just how those numbers play out. Ryan Detrick, S&P 500 was up more than 10% year to date heading into the last 2 months. November was just flat. The last 2 months have been up the past 16 times. It was up 10% year to date heading into. Still think Christmas comes to town in December. So what he was saying is all these other times where we had that setup, where we had a 10% year to date heading into the last 2 months, even though November was just flat, that we should see good returns because every other time that's what happened. And those are really good numbers. And again, we're going into easing. We're removing quantitative tightening. This is good stuff. I don't know what the exact impact would be on quantitative tightening, and it will be delayed. I'd have to look just to see how much the Fed was dumping into markets. I don't remember off the top of my head. I can look that up maybe in a second. But it's going to be impactful. And then when you look at lower rates coming too, that's impactful. We just need to get over whatever worry we have with Japan and then potentially China. And I think there's plenty of reason. The retail sales guys, these are more record numbers. We're looking at growth. We're seeing growth in margins. We're seeing growth still in the retail sector for this Christmas. And that's a good sign. Ryan said, when everyone was a breadth expert and freaking out, you know who wasn't worried? The credit markets. Noted before this big rally how well high yield was doing when all we heard was Hindenburg this and Hindenburg that. Follow credit. So he was looking at corporate bonds, high yield corporate bonds, and saying, hey, they haven't really went anywhere. And that is true, actually. The bond market volatility, again, the bond market isn't sniffing out a credit event. If it was, it wouldn't be fucking down here. So there's definitely, it's not seeing that. And the bond market is still pretty chill. And so the bond market isn't even really spooked. Outside of yields just kind of bouncing around into the U.S. just a little bit, volatility isn't really crazy. So this tells us that the market probably isn't scared that much. Stock market is. Stock market is definitely scared, but these are not. Japan's bond market puking on renewed expectations of a rate hike since 2-year JGB yield above 1% for the first time since 2008, and Nikkei tumbles. And since Bitcoin always correlates with anything that's down, It's not true, but whatever. We have a 4% dump in Bitcoin in Asian trading. So, but he is right. I do think this is stemming from it. Jake, I love Jake. He's got very simple charts. He's looking here and saying that the SPY or the S&P looks like it's just backtesting support. We've got Tesla, and there's a lot of charts that look like this. It shows rate cuts down at the bottom, and then it shows what happened with Tesla's price afterwards. Now, there's some pretty monumental events happening here. I would argue, though, that we're starting that phase now. It's a matter of understanding the timing. Again, I'm not in any leverage on Tesla, but it's my second biggest position. Kobayashi letter, a breaking U.S. tariff revenue surged 281% year over year in October to a record $34.2 billion in tariffs. So again, this is a decent chunk. We're getting closer to $400 billion a year in tariff revenue right now, annual run rate, to offset other expenses that we have and basically allow us to maybe reinvest in America and in growth. Kobayashi letter, December is historically a strong month for stocks. Since 1928, the S&P 500 has risen 72.3% of the time, or 73.2% of the time in December, the highest win rate of any month. In other words, only 26 of the last 97 years have seen negative returns. So more often than not, we're likely to get a good December here. And because we had a really weak October and November, I think that basically gives us an even greater multiplier of this turning out to be a good one. Unless the world's falling apart. And I don't see that. I just don't see it. What else we got here? More work for... Jesse, what are your thoughts on Michael Howell said short-term treasuries are the same as printing money? Yes, he's right. They are. Because the banks gobble them up and then they increase lending. He's 100% right. And but that's a good thing, right? That the short-term issuance is what's kept the economy along. It's horrible for our overall balance sheet, but short-term pain is okay if our growth really explodes in the years ahead. Austerity is not what you want. What that means is just like getting your house in order. We're bankrupt. We're fucking bankrupt. Our debt to GDP is over 100%. We're already bankrupt. You can't perform austerity when you're fucking bankrupt. It doesn't work that way. You can't. So what we have to do right now is we got to grow our assets. We need to utilize our assets. We need to encourage companies to invest. We need to hire more people. We need to increase wages at the lower end of the income spectrum. And if we do those things, then we'll be set. Because we're at a time in history where my car drives me everywhere. My car, we had 6 inches of snow here just the other day, right after Turkey Day. And my car drove everywhere on autopilot. It's just fucking amazing. And we're going to have robots in our houses in the next couple of years. The world is going to change in a very transformational way. I hope you understand that and the gravity of it. You should be thinking about where we're going to be years from now, not what's going to happen in the fucking price next week or next month. It doesn't fucking matter. Look at this long term and focus on that. I think that's the thing that matters. But yeah, so for Michael Howell, I think that you said BBB or Bill offers 100% appreciation permanently for business investments in manufacturing. I know, right? That's so fucking great. We've got a lot of other things in here that we're going to talk about that are really great too. I'm going to skip some of these other stats. They're all good. This is just basically saying, hey, on November 29 or 21st, Seth was saying, dude, we're in savvy oversold conditions. This is when you buy. And this is a great indicator. When you get up here to savvy overbought, if you just sell things there and then buy down here and then sell up here and then buy down here and then maybe sell up here again, if you just do that, you're going to be rich, and you could do that over a longer time frame. So that is why we had such a great week last week when everybody was off. Connor Bates, only 37% of S&P stocks have outperformed the index year to date. So again, 1/3. So if you're not in the 1/3, life has sucked. But I argue that can get better, and I argue that it is getting better, that we're actually seeing this increase year over year if you look at the new trend. QT ended, yep. Right here, immigration is enriching our country. Quote, families receiving welfare. So U.S.-born headed households, 39% of them receive some kind of welfare. Legal immigrant households, though, they're 52%. So they're taking an even greater amount from the system. And then illegal are the worst of all at 59%, 20% higher than US born households. So we know that legal immigrants and illegal immigrants cost more from the system than what they give back right now. I mean, this isn't the give back part, but we know that they cost a lot more and that illegal are the worst, right? So this is why we're talking about remigration. Thoughts on MSCI? I actually do have some thoughts on that. We'll go to that in a little bit here. When we get to the Bitcoin side of things, we'll let Michael Saylor give you his thoughts. But you can see about the categories of cash, food, Medicaid, and housing, how these break down. But it's pretty crazy, and it's not good, and we can't be bankrupt. We have to get rid of the expenses we can, but then we need to grow. We need to incentivize growth. We can't be bankrupt. We got to get rid of the expenses. This is an easy way to do it. And it helps keep inflation down so that we can juice the economy. We can get rates down. We can lend like fucking crazy. We can just go boom time. We can do portable mortgages so that people can transfer their interest rates from one house to another. And then at the same time, the banks are going to get the fees. So companies like SoFi could do really good, and other banks as they start refinancing and helping with loans. We're going to juice this bitch. It's coming. Kobayashi letter, the U.S. equities are experiencing massive inflows. Investors have poured in almost $1 trillion into U.S. equities since November of 2024, according to J.P. Morgan. Now, that's before now. But again, for November, massive amounts of money flowing in to U.S. equity funds. Inflows accelerated in May and have reached 450 billion, over 450 billion over the last 5 months. Meanwhile, net inflows into fixed income asset funds such as bonds are up 400 billion. So that's cool too. We want to see that. And I don't know how much that's the government. Let me go back here real quick for the bond part. I don't know if this is possible. I've got to look, but I don't know. I think we might have passed the window for the Zweig breadth thrust indicator. If we haven't, though, and we still hit this is really, really bullish. You can see what happened last time over here where you go from trough up to peak, and then when you hit that, it triggers. If we can get back up here in like the next week, that would be a great sign for a continuation pattern higher. Mike Alfred said this was 100% serious. My source called the rate cut pivot a day before they sent out the dovish commentary. He has gotten everything right over the last 2 years. He's saying now that 25 bips is now a lock-in, but Moran is leading an internal discussion for 50. I don't think we'll get 50. But I do think that's true, and I love it. Let me see if there's anything else we want here. There's a bunch of other stuff, but I think right here. ESLR rule has passed. Absolutely unhinged bullish for the markets. Plumbing has been central issue. This helps clear out the pipes. And when he's talking about plumbing, he's talking about like the repo markets and how they function, and just interbank lending. And so it's nice that we're modifying these rules. And so the post-2008 era of central banks driving liquidity is shifting back to the private markets. Most have no idea what's coming. Liquidity wave loading. And this talks about final rule to modify the enhanced supplementary leverage ratio. So that's the SLR ratio that we talk about. On June 27th, the FDIC Board of Directors approved a proposal to modify the enhanced supplementary leverage ratio standards that apply to U.S. global systemically important banks and their bank subsidiaries. The proposal was designed to help ensure that the ESLR more frequently serves as a backstop to risk-based capital requirements rather than as a binding constraint, thus reducing potentially disincentivizing their use and their bank subsidiaries to participate in low-risk, low-return activities. So we're basically creating an incentive to make it to where it's easy to do this, and we're transforming it from a roadblock to an incentive. There's more in it here, but this is a really good thing. One of many that's happening right now. Tom Lee was on CNBC this morning. I saw it. He was bullish. Who knew? Nayib Bukele, this is what I want to show today, okay? So look at the volume of economic activity. And I would argue this. El Salvador has done the right things for several years now, as far as locking up criminals and incentivizing capital to come in, all smart things that they've been doing. they've really started to kick those into overdrive recently, and they weren't really able to do a lot of lending because they were being attacked for being Bitcoin holders and being Bitcoin advocates. So the International Monetary Fund wouldn't give them a lot of cash. But they've done really, really well. If you look over here, volume of index of economic activity, just look at the numbers exploding this year. There's so much economic activity going on in El Salvador. It's awesome to see. This same thing is going to happen here next year. The same thing is going to happen next year. We've laid the foundation of all these wonderful things, and at the end of or the beginning of this next year, people are going to get a bigger tax return than they expected, and they're going to get the ability, and they'll have a bunch of documentation and people telling them that they should modify their deductions to account for how much money they might be saving if they're getting no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, and no tax on overtime. So it's all really, really good stuff. This too, just a reminder, October 2022, the New York Post had a 100% probability of a U.S. recession in the coming year, according to Bloomberg Economics forecast model. So people pay for Bloomberg, and they get models that tell them that we're fucked. And that time is funny because, again, it was right at the bottom of the markets when I was investing hard and getting ready to make a bunch of money. Kobayashi letter, more evidence of U.S. business employment declining. Small companies recorded negative 5,900 net job loss in October, the second month. So I think small business could still struggle a little bit more. I think the companies that are doing the best right now are the large ones, and I think it'll kind of go large, mid, small, and we'll see them doing better. Michael Burry, can you talk a bit about his put strategy and the impact it has on the market? I don't even think about Burry at all, at all. Let's see. That's probably good enough for now in regard to U.S. economy. I'm actually I'll go to Bitcoin next. I might go to China real quick. Let me do China. Opinion: China's economic miracle is collapsing from the inside. It's wild to see articles like this all the time now. China's top weapons manufacturer saw revenues crash 10% in 2024, while the rest of the world's defense companies kept growing. All over the West, they kept growing. Norinco, the company that builds China's tanks and missiles, plunged 31% to $14 billion. Aircraft production by AVIC slowed to crawl. Major contracts were quietly canceled or delayed because Xi Jinping's anti-corruption crackdown ripped through the military supply chain, including China's second highest ranking general. This though is emblematic, I think, of everything going on in China, and that's what they're talking about in here, is that all companies are having these kinds of problems, and they're seeing a massive economic contraction. And we're seeing that across a bunch of data. I won't even go into all these charts. We'll look at more in a second. And Banky is a company that's trading on the Shenzhen, the Chinese stock market, and their bond was just collapsing again. It's temporarily halted. I want to say that one ties in with residential real estate as well. So it's kind of a big mess there. Also, I don't know if you guys saw this, the fires at these apartments, the hundreds of people, maybe thousands that were burned alive in these apartments because this netting was flammable. And if they would have paid like an extra 60% more in cost, it wouldn't have been. But they didn't. And so all these people died. Welcome to China. This is the real China. You don't hear about that, though, right? You don't hear about that. You don't see homeless people sleeping all over the streets in major cities. You don't hear about any of this. And these people aren't on drugs. This is just where they sleep at night. You don't hear about the doctors who fled the country because they didn't want to harvest a young child's eyeballs and kidneys and other organs while they were alive. And so he had to flee the country to get away from it. And again, China property crisis. Kyle Bassey's great. One of the largest real estate developers in the Middle Kingdom has seen its USD bonds plunge 60% this week, falling to record lows. And it dropped even more. It's dropped even more since that number. So this is what China and Japan are what people are worried about right now. And China's fertility rate is just insane. It's worse. Out of any developed nation on earth, it's the worst. Industrial profits dropped 5.5% in October. Worst performance in 5 months. That's not great. People asking, like, China's buying all this gold, but why isn't anything happening? And why isn't their GDP growth being affected by it? And it's just because of it's feeding massive amounts of debt, more than we have. And again, that's the debt part is what Michael Howell is worried about. Are refinancing a debt right now? China definitely has that problem. Again, depending upon who you listen to, they're over 300% debt to GDP. We're like, I think 110 or 112. You guys can chat GPT it to confirm, or check Grok, probably if you're smart. But we're in a better place than they are, but they're in a really bad place. And so I think we can overcome ours with growth. We're doing all the right things. They're doing the opposite of the right things. It's crazy. All these posts now that are negative about China, it's insane to listen to. But I want you to hear this one real quick here.
China's economy is facing a new threat. In most countries, governments complain when prices are too high. But in China, the government's angry that prices are too low. This has come about due to a phenomenon called involution. Companies are cutting prices to gain market share. That's forcing everyone else to do.
It's called deflation. Everybody's leaving, and it's called deflation, and it's really bad.
The same. As a result, profits have plummeted, and no one's market share is any higher.
This is why you don't want to
This fight for survival has gone beyond normal market competition. That's because many of the firms have been nurtured by China's local governments. Industries like solar panels and lithium batteries have become world-leading. But this has resulted in an oversupply of these goods and not enough customers to meet the demand.
They were trying to destroy us.
One example is the car industry. There are now 130 domestic car companies battling for sales. Discounts are so steep that you can buy this electric car, the BYD Seagull, for less than $8,000. That might sound like a great deal, but households should think twice before being too happy about cheap prices. As profits have come down, wage growth has stalled, and employment looks weak. China has been here before.
We call this the Chinese lost decade, maybe 2, maybe 3.
A decade ago, it also suffered another long spell of falling industrial prices. Back then, the government cut capacity in industries like steel and coal to limit production. It was a crude measure, but effective.
100% archaic.
Prices rose and profit margins increased. But this time around, involution is more widespread. The companies involved are often privately owned, so the government has less control over them. They also operate in high-tech sectors with shiny new facilities, not like the dirty, outmoded plants that the government shut down last time. An alternative response to involution is just to flood foreign markets with goods. But trading partners are pushing back. Ultimately, the best...
Guys, Russia is pushing back. They put a huge tax on their cars to basically prevent them from being able to come in or continue to flow in. And then we're doing that with solar. A bunch of countries are doing that too. They're getting crushed from all ends. All ends. Absolutely destroyed right now.
Response to falling prices is to boost.
And normally I would be super scared about this, but India is doing really, really well, and we'll look at some of their stuff. But they got like an 8.8% or something GDP print. They're doing really well. So as they're dying, India is being born, and so it's I think it's going to be, I think it's a net kind of like flat or maybe a benefit over the next year or two because of what we're going to see, all the changes we're going to see. We're going to see the West really solidify around the United States and Central and South America and other places. And then we're going to see people that side with China, but there's not a lot of incentive to side with China because their economy is collapsing. And I think India will see the bulk of the benefit from that, but I think a lot of China's neighbors will see the net benefits of their demise. There'll be bad things that happen to them too, but they'll benefit as far as being able to find jobs and take away from the exporting of manufacturing and everything that's happening in that country, because everybody's trying to get around the tariffs. They're just a permanent siphon on the Chinese economy, these tariffs. And if China doesn't do what they're supposed to do, they're just destroying themselves sooner.
Boost demand, not to curb supply. China's leader, Xi Jinping, is wedded to his vision of China as a manufacturing powerhouse. Even if customers are hard to find, manufacturing is a big part of China's economy, and he doesn't want it getting any smaller. If that's the case, Mr. Xi won't solve involution without a bit of introspection. China's economy.
And he's a lunatic, so good luck. We'll see. These guys doing a great job compiling all the economic goings on within China. This actually is a really good site. So check these out. I'll repost this. I think that's it for there. There's a lot of other stuff going on in China. We don't need to go over all of it. I do want to jump over to the Trump thing, and then we'll talk about MSCI too. Real quickly, though, this is just, again, this is a testament to what happened to my friend Marissa and her children. This is a testament of the kind of stuff that's been going on around the country, and I hope all these motherfuckers get sued to oblivion. I hope these counties and states and everybody that's responsible for letting criminals out just get fucked. Listen to this cop and how pissed he is about how the system is fucking them.
He's got a felony warrant out of Thurston County Sheriff's Office because this is the third time we've pursued this individual in 6 months. So the last time I talked about him, I actually specifically stated that if the judges don't start taking this seriously, that someone's going to get hurt or killed. And here we are, shooting at the police. So maybe they'll take it more serious this time, but I'm not confident.
But I'm not confident. Isn't that fucking sad? And then, again, this is the stuff we're fighting against, the anti-white hate and discrimination propaganda. Look at this. Professor behind white genocide tweet says he has university support. This is just like, I'm going to kill this. Rutgers lecturer tweeted about shooting white people. I mean, we got to take these motherfuckers out. What? How is this acceptable? Trinity College professor, whiteness is terrorism. My existence is terrorism towards people. Now, I don't care what color skin you are. I think you just have to look at this and objectively, like maybe like Martin Luther King, and say it's not acceptable to hate any race for what they look like. It's not supposed to work that way. But this is acceptable somehow. Reduced number of white people on campus. When is it okay to kill whites? What? Ask Texas A&M philosophy professor. When is it okay to kill us? These are the things we're fighting against. Also, SNAP benefits. Again, we know that millions of people are probably getting all kinds of benefits, right? It shouldn't, that are illegal aliens in this country. Potentially 3-4 million people that could be getting benefits that shouldn't. I don't know how many are. We'll find out later. 21 states plus D.C. sue the Trump administration over the changes to SNAP, where they're trying to not give these people money who shouldn't get it because they just fucking came into this country illegally. And I don't know why I don't know. That shouldn't be controversial to me. Hillary Clinton would have totally been like, what the fuck are you doing 10, 15 years ago? That was her stance. So why is it okay now? The woke mind virus is going away. I love this. It says yearly mentions of prejudice in popular U.S. news media outlets. Racism, racist, and racist are just straight up. But look at this. Sexism, sexist, and misogyny are falling down. That's great. Homophobia and homophobic are falling down. Islamophobia and Islamophobic are falling down. And this isn't even the latest data, but I just wanted a reminder, anti-Semitic and anti-Semitism is falling down. Ideally, this is the direction that we head in, and I think that's what's going to happen. Also, Irina's law for North Carolina to end cashless bail for knife men, rapists, and repeat thugs, that's finally going into effect to where these guys won't be able to just bail out with no cost and be out in weeks or months from very serious fucking crimes. So that kind of stuff that guy was frustrated about finally going away. President Trump's approval rating is 47% as of polling done by Rasmussen on Friday. Rasmussen is an A-plus pollster. They're one of the best. Gavin Newsom promised to deliver, now wrap your head around this, guys. This is years ago. 1,200 tiny homes at what price? $625,000 a piece. That is an insane number. That's the regulatory burden of California right there. But the greatest part is that none of this has been done. None of it. Speaking of horrible things that the left like to do, we've got this guy, a father of 5, who decided to take a day trip to Washington, D.C. from Bellevue, Washington, so that he could murder these 2 National Guards people. I don't know if both of them have passed now. I know she had, and that he was not doing well. But this guy was trained by the CIA, and this is insane. During Biden's rushed withdrawal from Afghanistan, the CIA made a secret deal to fly thousands of elite Afghan zero-unit commandos into the U.S. Tens of thousands of their family members were also flown in with them. In return, those fighters helped secure the Kabul airport as the evacuation spiraled out of control. So they basically said, hey, you help us secure the airport, we'll let you on. None of the people were vetted afterwards either, which is fucking insane. Turns out that was a Trojan gift that keeps on giving. So we trained these people. And then like this guy right here, CIA trained Afghan, drove cross country from Seattle, waited outside a DC hotel and ambushed these 2 guards people, killing one of them. Former DNI John Ratcliffe torched the whole thing. Whatever. We don't need all that. But yeah, so pretty crazy stuff going on. And we've got Kash Patel talking about how they've got a bunch of evidence for the Russia hoax and how they're going to expose all of it. That should be interesting. And we talked about Hillary Clinton. What did she have to say about illegal aliens about 15 years ago?
As to illegal aliens, we agree with you that we do not think the comprehensive health care benefits should be extended to those who are undocumented workers and illegal aliens. We do not want to do anything to encourage more illegal immigration into this country. We know now that too many people come in for medical care as it is. We certainly don't want them having the same benefits that American citizens are entitled to have.
How did she change so much? How does somebody go from that to what they are now? I just don't understand it. But, you know, I think there's a lot of people. I think we discount how many people get what's going on right now in America. So let's listen to somebody talk about deportations that has some history in America.
The difference between being kind, and to me, my faith is one thing is being nice to people from different lands, but they also have to be respectful of our laws. And everybody wants to come to the United States because we have a great economy, have a lot of opportunity, but there's a process to do that. My family has been here since at least the 1700s. There's no one that's gave us a free $1,400 debit card. No one gave us a free apartment. No one gave us anything free. We had to work for it. So there is a process. And if we respect all people, that means that the people that come here need to respect our laws. And that's all that we're saying. We allowed 20 million immigrants in here legally since 2000. How much is too much, and how much are we going to put the burden on the taxpayers? Because the money has to come from somewhere. Yeah. It's just common sense.
And you know, mainstream media, which is 90% controlled by the left, is not putting an intelligent black man who has the same view of this as I and probably a lot of you do. They're not giving him any airtime. But that was beautiful, and he's 100% spot on. We also have another Afghan terrorist, a car bomb attack suspect in Fort Worth with a goal of taking out as many Americans as possible. This guy, again, just like this was, a month ago or something? We need to get rid of these motherfuckers. All the bad guys, for sure. And then Donald Trump, just to squash any Democratic kickback on this, said he posted this, Immigration and Nationality Act, Section 212F. Whenever the president finds that the entry of any aliens or any class of aliens in the United States would be detrimental to the interests of the United States, he may, by proclamation and for such period as he shall deem necessary, suspend the entry of all aliens or any class of aliens as immigrants or non-immigrants, or impose on the entry of aliens any restrictions he may deem to be appropriate. He's got ultimate power. That's what that says. This is a state that's right next to me, guys. This is Minnesota. Let's talk to Minnesotans about. Let's talk to Somalis about their religion and the goings on in America. Let's listen real quick.
What's it like being a Muslim here in the United States?
I'm not speaking English. Only one Somali language.
What does it mean to you to be a part of Islam?
This is Minneapolis.
I don't know. I'm not speaking English very well.
How are you? Do any of you speak English? English? No. Can women speak to on camera? No.
I don't think so. It's because the religion.
I kept going because I wanted to speak with some more of the elders here to see if they could share their story about coming here from Somalia and how they've seen the rise firsthand. However, none of them spoke English.
This is just so fucking retarded. Doing this is so fucking retarded. And these guys are embezzling billions of money, of dollars from the U.S. government and state governments and programs. It's just insane. It's insane.
Are you? Can I ask any of you guys some questions? No. Speak English?
English no.
No.
Okay.
Growing religion. So.
Wait, isn't it after Christ?
What?
Isn't it after Christ?
This guy wouldn't show his face on camera, and this conversation kept going for a few minutes, and he demanded that we deleted the footage of the interviews that we took here on the street.
This is just like, I don't know why we would want people that are nothing like us coming in and replacing us and going into government. They got a Somali that was trying to run for office as the mayor of Minneapolis. It's just insanity, the situation that we put ourselves in. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Doge is still working. All kinds of good stuff happening. This is with the CFTC. I probably won't. Well, maybe I'll read it. It says, fixing an unnecessary rule that kept American companies from using the U.S. treasuries as safe collateral in foreign futures markets. Because of the old confusion, U.S. firms had to lock up extra money, putting them at a disadvantage against foreign competitors. So why would you do that, right? Like you're having to put up even more collateral. The Trump's administration, and then you're allowing the foreign competition to step in. Makes no sense. The Trump administration CFTC has now clarified the rules and removed these duplicative requirements. This frees up more than $22 billion that U.S. investors and businesses can put for better use. Cutting this red tape and lowering costs gives Americans a fair chance to compete overseas. This is just some of the stuff that we're doing. Russia, this is an oil tanker getting blown up. I love the music these guys do. I don't know why, but it's the weirdest fucking thing. But both Russia and Ukraine will make like videos of their attacks, and then they put their favorite tunes to it. It's the weirdest fucking thing. That seemed like way too mellow of a thing for like blowing up an oil tanker. They blew up 3. So the oil fleet, the shadow fleet, is disappearing for Russia. Their energy is just getting decimated. They're financially hurting. Trump also, over the weekend, basically said that Venezuela is officially closed to all airlines, pilots, drug dealers, and human traffickers. Please consider the airspace above and surrounding Venezuela to be closed in its entirety. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Probably not good. We're basically, we're doing kind of an embargo. We're absolutely fucking Venezuela right now. They can't transport anything unless it's on ground, and then they have to deal with other countries, and they have to deal with us and military bases. We're freezing their drug trade completely and hurting their oil trade and preventing that from happening too. Basically enforcing sanctions between the relationship with Russia. It's wild what's going on right now. But it's good stuff. It's good stuff. Let me see. I must have jumped too far. I do want to play this. So we heard that from right here, we know that there's Afghan refugees like that guy that just, tried to murder those 2 guards people that didn't get vetted properly. Like we know there were all these people, these assistants that didn't get vetted at all. It's just hey, you help us get the fuck out. We'll take you with us. Let's listen to what the Biden administration's Jen Psaki had to say about that with these Afghan refugees. And just, were they vetted? Were they not? What did they tell us?
There are, of course, concerns among lawmakers, experts who've tracked this. They're saying previous
I think it's going to be a good day.
Of large numbers of refugees from different parts of the world. Inevitably, there may be a small handful who are eventually deemed a security risk of some kind. What reassurances can you make about the screening process and the attempts to make sure that somebody like that doesn't make his or her way here?
I can absolutely assure you that no one is coming into the United States of America who has not been through a thorough screening and background check process.
Lying bitch. All right, again, trucking company. I think we're good. There's probably more in here that didn't get... Oh, I wanted to show this too. So this is in Denmark, but the Somali men in Denmark, 62% are convicted of a violent crime by the age of 30. Why would you want 2/3 of your population of a demographic to commit violent crimes by the time they're 30? All the people at the top of this list, this isn't racism. This isn't racism. This is just data. If these people, like through here, if they're violent and not doing what you want them to do, or there's a certain threshold, a conviction rate, let's say 3. So anybody above Myanmar's level here, these people should all go away. They shouldn't be allowed in your country, just based on math. And you'll have a safer population. So that's the way we need to look at things. We need to look at the math. That's the only thing that's going to save us, man. Let's go to Bitcoin. We'll look at charts. We need to talk about Bitcoin too. I wanted to make this point real quick. Mario Nawful, and we do need to look at charts. What are we at? Almost 8 o'clock. He said Bitcoin isn't just better than fiat money. It's the only honest currency left. In 2025, the same Bitcoin people who didn't understand in 2010 is worth more than the GDP of 90% of the world's countries. Meanwhile, the real, the dollar, the euro, still being printed like there's no tomorrow. Again, just you're getting fucked in these other currencies. The Brazilian real has lost over 95% of its purchasing power since the Plano real in the 90s. The US dollar has lost 97% since 1913. You're just getting fucked in all these other currencies. Bitcoin is not doing that to you. That's important. And this says China's central bank reaffirmed its crypto ban and warned it will intensify its crackdown on stablecoins. So they don't want digital currencies because it can circumvent and leave their country, and they don't want that. I've been thinking this, and I've been kind of saying it too, but I wonder if China's actually forcing the dumping of Bitcoin and other cryptos, and then pushing gold higher. It's in their best interest to do that. I do think it's going to be I don't know how long they can do it. I don't think it's that long. We're already in a parabolic phase in gold, and silver is doing the same thing. It's getting close to this red line on the fib. And so I think they can only keep this up for so long, and then it's going to come crashing down, and that will be great for Bitcoin, but it won't be great for gold, and it might happen slowly, but again, there's trillions and trillions of dollars sitting in there that I think can move out, and I think we're the winners. MicroStrategy, so president and CEO Fong Li believes large banks will offer Bitcoin-backed custody services in 2026. He said that's a milestone, will put us well on our way to $1 million. I agree that could happen. Even Elon Musk talking about how energy is the true currency and Bitcoin is based on energy.
Some fundamental currencies, if you will, that are physics-based. So energy is the true currency. This is why I said Bitcoin is based on energy. You can't legislate energy. You can't just, pass a law and suddenly have a lot of energy. It's very difficult to generate energy, or especially to harness energy in a useful way to do useful work. So I think that probably we won't have money, and probably we'll just have energy,
we can look at it.
Power generation as the de facto currency.
So even Elon Musk is telling you that energy is going to be the de facto currency for the world. And we know that the best, most decentralized version of that exists in the United States. So I think you'd have to be dumb to think that Bitcoin is going away anytime soon, especially when you compare it to all the other currencies of the world, see how flawed they are. The US dollar is the best of them by far. And really, it's going to continue to be the best. But it's got problems, and all the others are worse, way worse. Nobody's going to be switching to the Chinese yuan. They're just not, right? Nobody's doing that. And nobody's going to the euro. They're all leaving it. They're all coming to the dollar, but really the dollar is just a doorway into Bitcoin. And even Elon Musk agrees with that, and he's brilliant. So we're sitting here. This is Cantonese Cat, who I think should be on fucking vacation. Maybe he's back. he's just showing that within the Gann chart here that we're testing this area. I strongly believe this too. You can see in the bottom right corner, I've got a different view of this. It's on the 3-day chart, or I'm sorry, the weekly. It shows the 100 moving average and how we're bouncing off of it with support. I think that's our support level. Could we go down further maybe and even down to the high 70s? Maybe. But I think the overall next move is getting back up to like the 130s and setting a new all-time high. Now, we might not sustain that high and we might roll over again. It's possible. But it's not going down really hard from here. We're going to get a strong bounce. It's just the way this stuff works, especially the way that all the macros lining up. And we'll talk about more of that in a second. Let me see here. Michael Saylor. So MSCI. Let's talk about MSCI real quick. We'll get to charts here soon.
I just want to ask you about the JP Morgan report that came out this morning warning that strategy could be excluded from benchmarks like NASDAQ, MSCI, and it could trigger an estimated $2.8 billion in automatic outflows. That's just from the MSCI alone. What's your response to that?
I think it's a bit alarmist. I'm not so sure the numbers are nearly that high. I think actually the numbers would be much smaller. I also think it's already priced into the market by a factor of 10 if you count it. I don't think there's any relationship between the decision-making of MSCI and the NASDAQ 100 or the S&P 500 index allocators. The company is an operating company. It's just like insurance companies use capital in order to create financial products, and banks use capital to create financial products. We use capital to create digital credit finance products. It's possible there are people in the world that don't fully appreciate digital credit or digital treasuries. That wouldn't surprise me. We had that challenge with bankers that didn't want to bank Bitcoin. We had that challenge with accountants that were a little bit skeptical of digital assets accounting. The accountants embraced the asset, the bankers embraced the asset, the politicians embraced the asset. We had the challenge with credit rating agencies, and they just embraced the asset. We're starting to get credit ratings. We have the challenge under the Basel Accords, where Basel Accords allocate zero value to Bitcoin, and now they've announced they're going to reconsider that. So I'm not concerned that we have these kind of concerns.
I think he just gave enough examples of all the things that they've overcome just since he's been involved in Bitcoin, because again, he flipped 2017. He didn't like Bitcoin. It was only in 2019 or 20 when he started to get really into it. So just in his time, all the things that they've overcome and the technical hurdles that they've overcome. So he's like, it's nothing. Even if it passed, I don't think it really means anything, and I think it would be a buy the news event. That's what I believe in this one. Michael Saylor talking about the dip. Let's listen to this too. Dip in Bitcoin.
You know, Bitcoin's been around for 15 years. It's had 15 major drawdowns. It's always come back to a new all-time high. If you zoom out, this is just par for the course. This is normal in the life cycle of an emergent transformational asset class, and it's a healthy thing. It clears out the tourists, the leverage, and the weak holders, and sets the basis for the next rally upward.
I agree. Peter Diamandis, love this guy. He's great for the futurism and genomics and all that kind of stuff. This is interesting. Harvard tripled its Bitcoin ETF stake to $442 million, making it their largest public holding when one of the world's most conservative and prestigious institutions, I wouldn't say conservative, pivots towards digital assets. Conservative in some of their methodology. They're pretty liberal, but it's fair to say that it's no longer speculation. And I do agree with that. And I think it's a sign that they're leaning so heavily into Bitcoin right now is a positive. Julius, divergences this big are rare. Valuation has been this low only 6 times in history. 5 of those marked major bottoms. If this setup is similar, Bitcoin will fly to new all-time highs in the coming months. So again, just showing where we were. If you look over here, the bottom of this band, every time we were at the bottom of this band, it was good news. Every time. And we're headed towards it again. So this is comparing Bitcoin to global liquidity, or at least in this chart, doing the same pattern. Bitcoin does it quicker because its cycles were faster because it was a younger asset that had a much lower cap. But we're going to do the same thing. Mark my words. And we've got the Fusaka network, Ethereum network upgrade. I won't go into all the details of it, but you can look at it. Kazakhstan said they're considering selling part of their gold reserves to buy Bitcoin. What if the U.S. starts doing this? I think the smartest thing for the U.S. to do would be let China take gold and basically print shit tons of money and then increase the price of gold to offset their pains and devalue the wealth of their citizens. And then once that gets nice and ripe, and I think we're getting close to it, and gold is just nice and fat. So why else would we be able to? Let me see what my internet says. Shit.